8 most shocking recent archaeological discoveries. Even the world's top experts can't explain. What would you think if an ordinary hill were hiding a structure that might be far older than many of the civilizations we've ever known? Why would opening a coffin after hundreds of years force historians to rewrite what had long been accepted as historical fact? And how could a set of human remains, a fossil, or a tomb buried for thousands of years leave even the world's leading archaeologists struggling for answers? Because the more they study these discoveries, the more questions they uncover instead of explanations. Perhaps the greatest mystery of archaeology is not what has already been found, but the secrets that still lie buried beneath the earth, waiting to be revealed. Time and again, discoveries like these remind us just how much of our past remains unknown. Hello everyone, and welcome back to Ancient History, the channel where we journey back through time to uncover the most fascinating mysteries in human history. In today's video, we're counting down 8 of the most shocking recent archaeological discoveries that even the world's top experts still can't fully explain. From a mysterious pyramid-like structure hidden deep in the jungles of Indonesia, to an almost perfectly preserved dinosaur fossil dating back 135 million years, from ancient tombs filled with solid gold and a 4,000-year-old cemetery bearing evidence of mysterious sacrificial rituals, to coffins, human remains, and priceless artifacts that are overturning historical theories once thought to be beyond question. Every discovery on today's list is like a missing piece of humanity's past. Some of these mysteries have been partially solved, while others have continued to puzzle scientists for decades, or even centuries, without a single universally accepted explanation. And by the time you reach the end of this video, you may find yourself looking at the history of human civilization in a completely different way. So, without further delay, join us as we explore these world-shaking archaeological discoveries, where the line between fact and mystery remains astonishingly thin. Human sacrifice. Victim found in a 4,000-year-old tomb in China. My friend, have you ever wondered what life was like around 4,000 years ago, when people had not yet developed writing to record their history? What did they believe in, and what kinds of rituals did they perform? What if, one day, archaeologists uncovered an ancient cemetery containing hundreds of graves, only to discover evidence suggesting that some of the people buried there did not die of old age or disease, but may instead have been sacrificed in ancient rituals? It sounds like something straight out of a movie, doesn't it? Yet this is a real archaeological discovery that has drawn significant attention from researchers. It centers on a mysterious prehistoric cemetery, preserving crucial clues about a civilization that disappeared thousands of years ago in China. The story begins near the village of Mogu in northwestern China. There, archaeologists uncovered an enormous ancient cemetery. Initial studies dated the entire burial ground to approximately 4,000 years ago, a time before writing had developed in this region. As a result, nearly everything we know about the people who lived there must be reconstructed from what has remained buried beneath the earth. Excavations were carried out continuously from 2008 to 2010. Between August and November 2009 alone, archaeologists excavated nearly 300 graves. Over the course of the entire project, hundreds of burials were uncovered, making Mogu one of the most important prehistoric archaeological sites in northwestern China. Further investigation revealed that the graves had all been dug deep into the ground, with most of them oriented toward the northwest. This suggests that burials were not conducted randomly, but followed specific customs and religious beliefs. Many graves also contained small side niches that had been intentionally created to hold grave goods. Inside these niches, archaeologists discovered finely crafted pottery, reflecting the remarkable craftsmanship of the people who lived there. Even more intriguingly, many of the graves were covered by raised earthen mounds, which researchers believe were built to mark the burial locations so future generations could recognize them. Archaeologists also discovered numerous family tombs. Family members had been laid to rest side by side, all facing the same direction, and were buried with valuable possessions for their time, including necklaces, jewelry, weapons, and decorated pottery. These discoveries suggest that the ancient inhabitants placed great importance on burial rituals and held strong beliefs about life after death. However, what attracted the greatest attention from archaeologists was a number of graves that differed completely from the others. After studying the positions of the skeletons, some researchers concluded that several individuals may not have received normal burials. According to the excavation team, these skeletons had tightly curled arms and legs instead of being laid out straight, as was typical in standard burials. Their faces were also turned toward the nearby niches containing grave goods. Based on the condition of the bones and teeth, experts estimated that some of these individuals were only about 13 years old when they died. From these observations, researchers propose that these individuals may have been victims of ritual sacrifice. However, this remains an archaeological hypothesis based on the evidence currently available and should not be considered a final conclusion. Alongside the skeletal remains, experts also recovered a large collection of valuable artifacts. Among them were beautifully crafted ceramic vessels decorated with intricate patterns. Some featured circular designs resembling the letter O, while others displayed wavy lines carved around the necks of the vessels. Researchers believe these decorations may have held religious significance or represented the distinctive artistic style of the people who lived during that period. The discoveries did not stop with pottery. Archaeologists also uncovered a variety of ancient bronze and stone weapons, including curved bronze swords, heavy stone maces capable of delivering devastating blows, as well as daggers and cutting knives. These artifacts not only demonstrate the advanced metalworking and tool-making skills of the ancient inhabitants, but also reveal a society capable of producing weapons for hunting or conflict. Based on all of these findings, researchers concluded that the cemetery belonged to the Chijia culture. The Chijia people occupied an area covering more than 861,000 square feet. They built semi-subterranean houses to adapt to their natural environment, and the entrances to most of their homes faced south. Today, the Chijia culture is recognized as one of the defining cultures of the early Bronze Age in northwestern China. Even so, one question remains unanswered. If these skeletons truly belong to victims of ritual sacrifice, why did the Chijia people perform such ceremonies? Were they expressions of religious belief, rituals intended to ensure successful harvests, or part of a unique tradition that has been lost to history? Scientists continue to investigate these questions in the hope of finding a definitive answer. Perhaps before long, new discoveries will finally reveal the truth. Until then, we'll simply have to wait and see. 2,500-year-old tomb, engineered to survive earthquakes, still amazes modern engineers. Did you know that the ancient world is full of incredible wonders, especially when it comes to its architectural achievements? Some ancient structures leave us speechless because of their enormous size. Others are famous for their breathtaking beauty or the treasures hidden within them. But a few monuments inspire an entirely different question, one that even modern engineers struggle to answer. How has this structure remained standing for more than 2,500 years despite enduring countless powerful earthquakes? What makes this even more remarkable is that it was built long before reinforced concrete, heavy machinery, or any form of modern technology existed. Yet today, it remains almost completely intact, as if the builders who lived thousands of years ago had discovered a construction secret that humanity would not fully understand until much later. Here's a question for you. If you could travel back more than 2 millennia and watch ancient craftsmen constructing a monument capable of withstanding earthquakes so effectively, would you believe your own eyes? If your answer is no, then join me as we explore the tomb of Cyrus the Great, a monument that appears surprisingly simple at first glance, but has become one of the world's most fascinating archaeological sites. It may also answer that very question. Located in the ancient plain of Pasargadae in present-day Iran, the tomb was built around the 6th century BC, following the death of Cyrus the Great around 530 BC. As you may already know, Cyrus was the founder of the Achaemenid Persian Empire, one of the most powerful empires of the ancient world. During his reign, from 559 BC to 530 BC, the Persian Empire expanded from the shores of the Mediterranean Sea all the way to the Indus River, creating a vast realm that stretched across numerous civilizations. Yet despite possessing nearly absolute power, Cyrus's final resting place was anything but extravagant. Unlike the massive pyramids or the gold-covered royal tombs of many other rulers, his tomb is relatively modest in size and remarkably simple in design. Ironically, It is this very simplicity that conceals a secret that continues to astonish archaeologists and structural engineers today. Viewed from the outside, the tomb resembles a rectangular stone chamber measuring about 20 feet long and 16 feet wide. A small doorway leads into the burial chamber, while the roof is built in a triangular, gabled shape. The entire chamber rests upon a massive 6-tiered step-stone platform resembling a pyramid. Every section was assembled from enormous stone blocks, cut and fitted together with extraordinary precision. To the naked eye, it appears to be nothing more than a carefully built stone monument, but its greatest secret lies beneath the ground. According to experts, the tomb of Cyrus was constructed using a principle that today is known as base isolation engineering. Even more astonishing, it is considered one of the oldest earthquake-resistant structures ever built. In modern engineering, base isolation works by separating a building's foundation from its upper structure, reducing the amount of seismic energy transferred during an earthquake. Remarkably, the ancient Persians appear to have applied a very similar principle more than 2,500 years ago. To create this unique foundation, they stacked multiple layers of limestone. The lowest layer was bonded together using a mortar mixture made from lime combined with ash or sand, then carefully polished to create a stable surface. The stone layer above, however, was not permanently fixed to the layer beneath it. Instead, the massive stone blocks were connected with metal clamps, while still allowing a limited amount of movement whenever the ground shook. Isn't that fascinating? That small amount of movement is exactly what allows the structure to absorb seismic forces. When an earthquake occurs, the stone layers can slide slightly against one another instead of transferring the full force directly into the tomb itself. As a result, much of the earthquake's energy is dispersed, significantly reducing the risk of cracks or collapse. That is why, despite the passage of centuries and the countless earthquakes that have struck the land of Iran, the tomb of Cyrus the Great remains standing today in an almost perfectly preserved condition. More than simply serving as the burial place of one of history's greatest rulers, the monument stands as lasting proof of the extraordinary engineering skills of the ancient Persians. 28,000-year-old pyramid in Indonesia could rewrite human history. If someone told you that deep within the dense jungles of Indonesia lies a massive structure believed to be far older than many of the civilizations we have ever known, would you believe them? Even more astonishing is the fact that for centuries, this structure was mistaken for nothing more than a tree-covered hill. It wasn't until modern surveying technology began peering beneath the surface that what lay hidden underground left archaeologists completely stunned. Since then, many experts have come to believe that this site may conceal one of the greatest mysteries in human history. Sounds impossible, doesn't it? Then let me take you to Indonesia, where a discovery exactly like this has actually taken place in recent years. The story begins at Gunung Padang in Indonesia, an archaeological site that has been known since the early 19th century. However, it wasn't until recent years, especially after scientists presented their research findings at the annual meeting of the American Geophysical Union, AGU, that the site truly became the focus of worldwide scientific attention. According to the archaeological team, beneath the thick layers of soil and dense vegetation lies not just a natural hill, as people had long believed, but a massive man-made structure whose shape resembles a pyramid. What's particularly fascinating is that the structure is almost impossible to recognize with the naked eye. Covered by vegetation for an incredibly long time, it appeared to be nothing more than an ordinary hill. Indonesian geologist Andang Bakhtiar even stated that the structure resembles a pyramid that has been hidden by nature for thousands of years. As a result, it wasn't until modern technology was applied that the secrets buried beneath the ground gradually began to emerge. What intrigued scientists even more was that this structure bears little resemblance to the famous pyramids built by the Maya or the ancient Egyptians. According to scientist Danny Hilman Natawijaja of the Indonesian Institute of Sciences, Maya pyramids typically feature highly symmetrical designs. In contrast, the structure at Gunung Padang has an elongated shape with a completely different architectural layout. He believes it is most likely not a pyramid in the traditional sense, but rather an ancient temple built in a unique architectural style unlike anything humanity has ever documented. To test this hypothesis, archaeologists employed a wide range of advanced surveying technologies. They used ground-penetrating radar, X-ray tomography, two-dimensional and three-dimensional imaging, geological core drilling, and conducted numerous excavations across the site. The results revealed that the entire complex is enormous, covering approximately 37 acres. Based on geological analysis, researchers determined that the uppermost architectural layer dates back roughly 3,000 to 3,500 years. But that wasn't the biggest surprise. At a depth of about 10 feet, the research team discovered another layer of stone columns believed to date back 7,500 to 8,300 years. When they excavated even deeper, about 49 feet below the surface, they uncovered yet another architectural layer estimated to be around 9,000 years old. However, the discovery that has generated the greatest controversy worldwide lies even deeper. Researchers identified traces that may date back as far as 28,000 years, along with several underground cavities and chambers. If these findings are fully verified in the future, they could dramatically reshape many existing theories about when humans first began constructing large-scale monuments. According to our current understanding, such an age would make the site far older than many of history's most famous civilizations. Even more fascinating is the fact that while scientists continue analyzing every aspect of the site, local residents have never stopped regarding Gunung Padang as a sacred place. To this day, they visit the site to pray, meditate, and perform traditional ceremonies passed down through generations. Could it be that they have unknowingly preserved an ancient heritage for thousands of years without fully understanding its true significance? Or is there another mystery hidden beneath the surface that even today's experts have yet to unravel? What do you think? Is Gunung Padang truly a mysterious ancient temple? Or could it be evidence of a civilization that disappeared long before recorded history began? Share your thoughts in the comments below. We'd love to hear what you think. The 9 mysterious scratches on Bruce Lee's coffin. More than half a century later, no one has been able to explain them. Life is truly unpredictable. If people say this world is only a temporary place, they may not be exaggerating at all. Think about it. Some people leave this world without a chance to say goodbye, and before long, few remember who they were. Yet others, even after being gone for more than half a century, continue to be remembered by millions with admiration, respect, and a sense of mystery that has never been fully resolved. Few people embody that better than the legendary martial artist whose name is familiar to anyone interested in Chinese history or martial arts films. Yes, we're talking about Bruce Lee. Although his life was tragically short, his influence forever changed the global film industry. When people think of Bruce Lee, what continues to haunt them is not only his extraordinary career, but also his sudden death at the age of 32, along with the series of strange events that followed. Perhaps the most puzzling of them all were the 9 mysterious scratches that appeared on the lid of his coffin on the day he was laid to rest. So, were those scratches merely an incredible coincidence? Or is there still something about this story that has never been revealed? Let's go back to the beginning and examine what actually happened. To understand this mystery, we first need to know who Bruce Lee was. His birth name was Lee Jun Fan, and he was born at around 7 a.m. on November 27, 1940. According to the traditional Chinese calendar, he was born during the Year of the Dragon and the Hour of the Dragon, leading many people to say that he possessed the powerful spirit symbolized by the dragon in Chinese culture from the moment he was born. And in many ways, that seemed true. Throughout his life, Bruce Lee rarely stopped pushing himself forward. From a young actor, he gradually elevated Chinese martial arts films to an entirely new level while opening the doors of Hollywood to Asian actors. However, just as his career was reaching its peak, with several major film projects in development, tragedy struck. On July 20, 1973, in Hong Kong, Bruce Lee suddenly passed away at just 32 years old. The autopsy concluded that he had suffered cerebral edema, a severe swelling of the brain. After extensive discussion, doctors officially ruled his death an accidental fatality. Even so, that conclusion failed to erase the doubts held by fans, martial artists, and members of the film industry. The very next day, July 21, 1973, newspapers across Hong Kong widely reported the death of the martial arts superstar. Initial reports stated that Bruce Lee had collapsed and was rushed to Queen Elizabeth Hospital, where he could not be revived. At that time, the exact cause of his death had not yet been determined. As more information emerged, however, the story became increasingly complicated. At first, family members and close friends claimed that Bruce Lee had died at home with his wife by his side. Later, however, several Hong Kong newspapers reported that before collapsing, he had been at the home of actress Betty Ting Pei, a well-known actress of that era. From there, investigators began piecing together the events of Bruce Lee's final day. According to publicly available accounts, at around 1 p.m. on July 20th, Bruce Lee's wife left the house while he remained at home. At approximately 2 p.m., film producer Raymond Chow arrived to discuss the script for Game of Death. After their meeting, around 4 p.m., the two men went together to Betty Ting Pei's home, where she was also involved in the project, to continue discussing the film. Everything appeared perfectly normal until about 7 p.m., when Bruce Lee complained of a headache. Betty Ting Pei gave him a painkiller that she herself commonly used. After taking the medication, Bruce Lee went into a bedroom to rest and soon fell asleep. At around 8 p.m., Raymond Chow left to attend to other business. About half an hour later, Betty Ting Pei checked on Bruce Lee and found him sleeping deeply, so she chose not to wake him. By 9 p.m., nothing had changed. At approximately 9:45 p.m., Raymond Chow returned. Together, they repeatedly tried to wake Bruce Lee, but he showed no response. They immediately called for a doctor. Shortly after 10 p.m., the doctor determined that Bruce Lee had fallen into a deep coma and he was rushed to the hospital. Sadly, despite every effort, doctors were unable to save him. From that moment on, countless theories began to emerge. Some believed he had been targeted by organized crime. Others suspected fierce competition within the film industry. Still others pointed to personal conflicts, martial arts rivalries, feng shui, or even mysterious curses. Some rumors even attempted to link his death to actress Betty Ting Pei. However, to this day, none of these theories has ever been supported by credible evidence. The official conclusion remains that Bruce Lee died from cerebral edema in what was ruled an accidental death. Over the years, some people have also tried to explain his fate through traditional physiognomy, but these interpretations are simply folk beliefs and have no scientific basis. Just when it seemed that all the mysteries would end after his funeral, another strange detail captured public attention. Following Bruce Lee's death, his first funeral service was held at Guangbin Funeral Home in Kowloon, Hong Kong. According to tradition, his body was originally intended to be buried alongside many personal mementos. However, his wife, Linda Lee, decided instead to bring her husband back to Seattle, Washington, so that his family could more easily care for his gravesite. Then, on July 28, 1973, during the funeral service in Seattle, many attendees noticed something astonishing. 9 mysterious scratches had appeared across the lid of Bruce Lee's coffin. What made the discovery even more puzzling was that the entire transportation process had been carefully supervised. The security personnel accompanying the coffin also insisted that no incident had occurred that could have caused such marks. Yet the scratches remained, becoming one of the most enduring mysteries associated with Bruce Lee's death. Today, more than half a century later, the life and passing of this martial arts legend continue to fascinate people around the world, and many questions remain unanswered. So what do you think? Were the 9 scratches on Bruce Lee's coffin simply an extraordinary coincidence? Or do they conceal a story that history has yet to uncover? Share your thoughts in the comments below. Who knows? Perhaps your perspective could offer an entirely new way of looking at a mystery that has endured for more than 50 years. Wouldn't that be something truly remarkable? The coffin of the Ming Dynasty's laziest emperor was opened after more than 400 years. The discovery forced historians to rethink everything. When you hear about an emperor who never officially attended a single court session for 28 consecutive years, your first thought is probably that he must have been a lazy ruler, someone who cared only about his own comfort while neglecting the affairs of the state. But what if, more than 400 years later, archaeologists opened that emperor's coffin and discovered evidence that forced historians to reconsider a judgment that had stood for centuries? Was he truly an irresponsible ruler? Or was he simply a man carrying a burden that no one of his time could fully understand? To answer those questions, let's travel back in time and uncover the remarkable story of the Wanli Emperor, the man long known as the laziest emperor of China's Ming Dynasty. When people think of the Ming Dynasty, most immediately remember Emperor Hongwu, Zhu Yuanzhang, the founder of one of China's greatest imperial dynasties. However, after his death, many of his successors struggled to preserve that glory, and signs of decline gradually began to appear throughout the empire. Among all the Ming emperors, the Wanli Emperor stands out more than most. Not only was he the dynasty's longest-reigning emperor, spending 48 years on the throne, but he also became the central figure in one of the most debated mysteries in Chinese history. Wanli became emperor at just 10 years old. At an age when most children were still playing without a care in the world, he was already carrying the fate of a vast empire on his shoulders. According to historical records, during the early years of his reign, Wanli was an exceptionally diligent ruler. Every day he attended court, studied state affairs, reviewed memorials submitted by officials, and personally handled many important government matters. Many ministers of the time regarded the young emperor as responsible, hardworking, and full of promise. Yet midway through his reign, something changed, and no one could fully explain why. Wanli virtually disappeared from court. What makes the story astonishing is that this absence did not last for a few months or even a few years. It continued for 28 straight years. To many people, such behavior was unprecedented in imperial Chinese history. From that point forward, he became known as the Lazy Emperor. The mystery deepened because despite rarely appearing before his officials, the imperial government continued to function, the country remained relatively stable, and several military campaigns ended in victory. As a result, numerous theories emerged. Some believed Wanli had become deeply frustrated by the endless factionalism and political infighting among government officials and deliberately chose to avoid them. Other historical sources suggest that although he no longer attended court in person, he continued to review official memorials and govern the empire from behind the scenes. However, these remain interpretations rather than proven facts, because Wanli himself never publicly explained the true reason for his absence. Whenever officials submitted petitions urging him to return to court, the emperor simply gave the same brief reply: his health was poor. At the time, however, very few people believed him. To many, it was merely an excuse used to justify the laziness of an emperor who seemed to have abandoned his responsibilities. It wasn't until 1955, more than 400 years after Wanli's death, that an archaeological excavation at Dingling, part of the Ming Tombs complex in Beijing, China, offered an entirely new perspective. The excavation was carried out by a team of archaeologists and historians, including the renowned scholar Guo Moruo. The tomb was later converted into an underground museum for research and public exhibitions. Although Dingling is not the largest imperial tomb of the Ming dynasty, it is one of the most solidly built and structurally complex. Archaeologists spent more than a year locating its main entrance. When they finally reached the underground chambers, they uncovered more than 3,000 burial artifacts, including jewels, precious jade, silk, and countless objects of immense historical value. Yet the most significant discovery lay inside the emperor's coffin. After carefully studying and reconstructing Wanli's skeletal remains, experts noticed that his legs were not symmetrical. His right leg was slightly longer than his left, and the condition of his bones suggested that he may have suffered from a disorder involving muscle atrophy or a deformity affecting his lower limbs. Such a condition would likely have made walking, and even sitting for extended periods, extremely painful and difficult. Many researchers believe this physical condition may have been one of the reasons he avoided appearing at official court sessions. However, this remains an interpretation based on archaeological evidence and modern scientific analysis, rather than a definitive conclusion. Even so, if this hypothesis proves correct, then the image of Wanli as a lazy emperor for hundreds of years deserves to be viewed far more fairly. Perhaps he rarely appeared before his ministers, yet continued governing the empire quietly despite serious physical limitations. As you can see, history often records only what people were able to observe. The silent suffering someone endured can easily be buried by time. Only after the emperor's coffin was opened more than 4 centuries later did future generations finally gain the opportunity to piece together the missing parts of the story. So after hearing all of this, do you think the title of the laziest emperor in history still truly belongs to the Wanli Emperor? Personally, I don't think it does. Because if he had truly been nothing more than a lazy ruler, how could he have maintained the stability of an entire dynasty for such a long period of time? 135-million-year-old dinosaur fossil, one of the most complete ever found in Europe. Can you believe that after lying buried beneath the earth for more than 135 million years, a dinosaur skeleton could remain so remarkably intact that it stunned the entire paleontological community? If not, then join me on a journey to Kelheim, in the German state of Bavaria. It was here about 2 years ago that researchers discovered an extraordinary dinosaur fossil lying along a riverbank. You know, the moment the first bones began to emerge from the ground, experts immediately sensed that this was no ordinary discovery. However, instead of announcing the find to the world right away, the research team chose to keep it secret for quite some time. The reason was simple. They feared that if news of the discovery leaked too early, fossil hunters from around the world would rush to the site, potentially disrupting the excavation and damaging the remains that were still buried underground. Only after the excavation and careful scientific study had been completed was the fossil finally revealed to the public. Just as the researchers had expected, it immediately became the center of attention within the international scientific community. The research team gave the dinosaur the affectionate nickname Ott. That simple name quickly appeared in scientific journals because this was not only an exceptionally rare fossil, but also one of the best preserved dinosaur specimens ever discovered in Europe. What amazed scientists the most was the extraordinary level of preservation. According to the research team, Ott retains approximately 98% of its skeletal structure, an almost unprecedented level of completeness for a carnivorous dinosaur fossil. Previously, most known skeletons of predatory dinosaurs preserved only about 70% to 80% of their original structure at best. Finding a specimen this complete has given scientists an exceptionally rare opportunity to study in remarkable detail the anatomy of one of the creatures that ruled Earth millions of years ago. According to Oliver Rauhut, curator of the paleontology collection in Bavaria, this is an extraordinary discovery. Not only is the skeleton more complete than the vast majority of previously known specimens, but at the time of its announcement, it was also considered one of the most complete dinosaur fossils ever found in Europe. Detailed analysis revealed that Ott shares many characteristics with the theropods, the group of two-legged carnivorous dinosaurs that also includes the famous Tyrannosaurus rex. However, researchers have not yet been able to determine exactly which species Ott belongs to. That means this remarkable fossil still holds many mysteries waiting to be solved. But the surprises didn't end there. Scientists also discovered that Ott was not an adult. Instead, researchers believe the dinosaur was only about 1 year old when it died during the Jurassic period. Its body measured only about 28 inches in length, indicating that it was still a juvenile. Ironically, because it died at such a young age, many delicate anatomical features were preserved far more clearly than they usually are in adult specimens, allowing scientists to examine details that are often lost over time. Most exciting of all, researchers found traces of both feathers and skin preserved alongside Ott's skeleton. This discovery generated tremendous excitement throughout the paleontological community. For many years, scientists have searched for additional evidence supporting the evolutionary connection between dinosaurs and modern birds. The preserved feather impressions on Ott could therefore provide valuable new information that helps explain the evolutionary process spanning tens of millions of years. Perhaps because of its extraordinary scientific importance, the German government officially declared Ott a national cultural asset immediately after the research was completed. This means the fossil cannot be bought, sold, or exported from Germany under any circumstances. In the future, Ott will be preserved and displayed in a museum in Germany, where it will continue supporting scientific research while giving the public the opportunity to see one of Europe's greatest paleontological treasures with their own eyes. As you can see, a single fossil that remained hidden beneath the Earth for 135 million years is enough to raise countless new questions about the evolutionary history of our planet. So, what would you think if I told you that beneath the rocks and soil we walk across every day, countless ancient creatures may still be waiting to be discovered? China's most luxurious landowner, Tomb. Even the coffin nails were made of solid gold. While preparing to build an ordinary public works project, workers accidentally uncovered a tomb that, at first glance, appeared completely unremarkable. There was no stone monument, no grand entrance, and no visible sign that it belonged to someone of high status. In fact, even the archaeologists initially believed it was nothing more than an ordinary civilian burial with little archaeological significance. But then, one small detail on the decaying coffin left everyone speechless. The nails holding the coffin lid in place were made entirely of solid gold. Think about it. Could an ordinary person really afford to use gold just to fasten a coffin? So who was the true owner of this extraordinarily lavish tomb? If you don't have an answer yet, let's travel back to 2014 to Xinpu County, Guizhou Province, China. At the time, local authorities were preparing to construct a reservoir. As required by law, archaeologists conducted a preliminary excavation before construction began. During their survey beneath a resident's home, the team unexpectedly discovered an ancient underground tomb that had remained buried for centuries. Initial observations revealed that the tomb occupied what was considered an ideal location. It faced a river in front and was backed by mountains behind, perfectly matching the traditional feng shui principle of leaning against the mountains while facing the water, a concept highly valued in Eastern culture. This suggested that whoever built the tomb had carefully chosen the burial site. However, the tomb itself appeared surprisingly simple. The burial chamber was constructed entirely from packed earth, with no entrance gate, no stone walls, and none of the elaborate architecture commonly found in royal mausoleums. Based on their initial assessment, the archaeological team concluded that it was probably an ordinary civilian tomb and was unlikely to contain anything of exceptional historical importance. But archaeology has a way of defying expectations. As the excavation continued, researchers uncovered a wooden coffin that had badly deteriorated over time. At first, nothing about it seemed unusual. Then, after carefully removing the dirt covering its surface, the experts noticed something that immediately changed everything. The nails securing the coffin were not made of iron or bronze, as was customary. Every single one of them had been crafted from pure gold. At that moment, the entire archaeological team realized that their original assessment had almost certainly been wrong. After all, in imperial China, even wealthy families rarely used gold for something as hidden and seemingly insignificant as coffin nails. Using gold for such a purpose strongly suggested that the tomb's owner possessed extraordinary wealth and social status. Filled with both curiosity and anticipation, the researchers carefully lifted the coffin lid. What they found inside left everyone in stunned silence. The coffin had been divided into two separate compartments, containing the remains of a man and a woman. Surrounding them were countless burial objects made from pure gold. Golden spoons, plates, vases, and many other exquisitely crafted items had been placed beside the deceased. Among the most remarkable discoveries was a pair of gold cups decorated with beautifully carved dragons, displaying an exceptional level of craftsmanship. The surprises didn't end there. The tomb also contained numerous gold ingots and valuable jade artifacts buried alongside the couple. To the archaeologists standing there, it looked less like a tomb and more like a hidden treasure that had remained undisturbed for centuries before finally being awakened. Unfortunately, nowhere inside the tomb was there a stone inscription or written record identifying those who had been buried there. Determining the occupants' identities therefore became an enormous challenge. After an exhaustive search, however, the researchers discovered a short inscription engraved on the base of a silver candlestick. That tiny detail became the crucial clue that ultimately led them toward identifying the tomb's owners. Based on the inscription and comparisons with historical records, researchers believe the woman may have been Madame Tian, while the man was most likely Yang Jia, a prominent landowner who lived during China's Song dynasty. According to historical records cited in the research, Yang Jia assisted the imperial court during its military campaigns against the Mongol forces. He was later appointed to govern the region corresponding to present-day Xinpu County, Guizhou Province. If this identification is correct, then the extraordinary wealth and lavish nature of the tomb can largely be explained by the position and immense fortune he possessed during his lifetime. As you can see, history's greatest secrets are not always hidden inside magnificent palaces or colossal royal tombs. Sometimes they lie quietly beneath the floor of an ordinary home, waiting for someone to uncover them by chance. That's what makes archaeology so fascinating, isn't it? 54. Ancient jar burials beneath the waters of Vietnam's Nuoc Trong Reservoir. My friends, what would you think if someone told you that beneath the calm waters of a reservoir in central Vietnam lies an entire ancient cemetery dating back thousands of years? Even more astonishing is the fact that these tombs were not buried just a few hundred years ago. They have remained hidden since the time when ancient communities lived on this land more than 3,000 years ago. Every burial jar, every funerary object, and every bead of jewelry discovered there is like a doorway that takes us back through time to meet the people who once lived, worked, and helped build one of the most remarkable ancient cultures in Vietnam. It sounds almost unbelievable, doesn't it? Even some of the most experienced archaeologists found it difficult to believe at first. But that's the fascinating thing about history. It always has a way of surprising us. And the story of Nuoc Trung Reservoir, located in Son Ha District, Quang Ngai Province, within Vietnam's Tang River Basin, is a perfect example. Nuoc Trung is one of the largest irrigation reservoirs in central Vietnam. Construction on the project began in 2007 under the Ministry of Agriculture and Rural Development. During the land clearing process for the reservoir, cultural authorities and archaeologists unexpectedly uncovered numerous ancient remains buried deep within the Tang River Valley, an area that would later become submerged beneath the reservoir. At first, scattered discoveries of stone tools, bronze objects, iron artifacts, glass, and pottery attracted the attention of researchers. However, as excavations continued, archaeologists realized that the site was much more than an ancient settlement. It was also an exceptionally important burial complex. More than 10 years ago, a total of 54 ancient tombs were discovered and excavated. To preserve them in their original condition, each tomb was carefully encased in plaster, placed inside specially designed wooden crates, and transported to the Quang Ngai General Museum for safekeeping. After years of research, specialists began the painstaking work of uncovering, restoring, and conserving these jar burials between 2021 and 2022. It was an incredibly meticulous process. Every layer of soil adhering to the artifacts was carefully removed. Broken pottery fragments were painstakingly reassembled and restored, while researchers determined the age and structural characteristics of each individual burial. On August 25th, the Quang Ngai Department of Culture, Sports and Tourism officially concluded the restoration and research project, presenting many of its most important findings to the public. According to Associate Professor Dr. Nguyen Kok Su of the Vietnam Institute of Archaeology, the burials belong to communities associated with the Pre-Sa Huyen and Sa Huyen cultures. This discovery is especially significant because Nuoc Trung Reservoir lies approximately 62 miles west of An Khe Lagoon in Duc Pho Town, where the first Sa Huyen archaeological sites were discovered in 1909. Although the two locations are separated by a considerable distance, the jar burials found at Nuoc Trung share many characteristics with other well-known Sa Huyen sites. One aspect that particularly fascinated archaeologists was the remarkable diversity of the burial practices. According to Dr. Doan Ngoc Khoi, Deputy Director of the Quang Ngai General Museum, 19 of the restored tombs are coffin-shaped jar burials. These jars were used to hold the cremated remains of the deceased. Inside them, archaeologists found numerous grave goods, including stone tools, jewelry, and ceramic vessels. Researchers also uncovered 6 earth graves, in which the deceased were buried directly in the ground and surrounded by layers of pottery. Looking closely at these ancient jars, you can see that the people who created them cared about much more than simply burying their dead. They also expressed a remarkable sense of artistry. Archaeologists believe the ancient inhabitants used natural tubular materials to create circular decorative patterns on the surfaces of the jars. These designs were likely more than simple decoration. They may have held spiritual significance or reflected the social status of the individual buried within. The jars themselves come in an impressive variety of shapes. Some are spherical, while others are cylindrical, egg-shaped, or resemble large ceremonial vases. Some have no lids at all, while others are covered with dome-shaped, basin-shaped, or truncated cone-shaped lids. Each design may reflect a different belief about the afterlife held by the ancient Sa Huyen people. In addition to the jar burials, archaeologists recovered a remarkable collection of valuable artifacts. Stone axes, grinding slabs, grain pestles, pounding stones, and numerous other tools provide insight into the daily lives of these ancient communities. Researchers also discovered jewelry made from agate, a semi-precious variety of quartz that humans have been using since thousands of years BC. These discoveries demonstrate that the Sahuin people not only possessed advanced craftsmanship, but also enjoyed a rich spiritual life and a sophisticated sense of aesthetics. Dear friends, every ancient tomb, every set of human remains, every fossil, and every artifact that is discovered serves as a doorway into the past. Yet each one also leaves behind countless questions that humanity has still not been able to answer completely. Perhaps that is exactly what makes archaeology one of the most fascinating fields in the world. So, which discovery from today's video impressed you the most? Let us know your thoughts in the comments below. And if you enjoyed today's video, don't forget to like, subscribe to Ancient History, and turn on notifications so you can join us on many more incredible journeys into the mysteries of the past. For now, thank you so much for watching. Goodbye, and we'll see you in the next video.